All right, welcome to The Walking Dead Season 7 premiere review. I guess it's like a discussion too, basically of last night's premiere, which was I thought was awesome. I got Old Dirty with me. What's up, Old Dirty? 33.
Hey, what's going on, Dave? What's up, YouTube? What's up, Frozen?
Glad to have you, buddy. Thank you for joining. And one thing I want to say too, Daniel Rodriguez is not with us tonight. I messaged him a few times. Kind of did this on short notice. Wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not. I tried to do a review, but the way my C920 cameras or the Windows 10 update that I'm waiting on for them to fix it, I can't do. I have to do videos on my tablet, like I explained in other videos. So I just figured it'd be better just to do a review on like a podcast and have a discussion with some people and basically just talk about the episode because there's a lot to talk about. How's it going, Frozen Magma?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Oh, glad to have you, buddy. Thank you for joining. And yeah, pretty much Daniel. He's usually with me on a lot of this stuff, but I believe just it's such short notice. We haven't done a movie podcast in a long time, so he probably figured I wasn't doing one. So I'm sure he'll be on the next one, whatever that may be. All right, so basically, let's talk about, first with The Walking Dead. Let's just talk about in general, all the hype leading up to this episode. I want to know, in your guys' opinion, did it live up to the hype and was it worth the wait? Dirty.
Yes. It lived up to me. It lived up to the hype, and it was. Yeah, I guess I could say it was worth the wait because I was, like for maybe about 2 weeks, I was trying to figure out who was that got killed. But yeah, it was a surprise throughout the entire episode, man. Just to you know see what happened. It was crazy, and I was satisfied with it. I was like, two thumbs up.
hmm And do you think like all the hype and the wait, because the reason I'm asking this question is basically because you had so many people upset with the cliffhanger, and just to refresh people's memories, because I believe you were on the podcast with the when we reviewed the finale for season 6 of The Walking Dead. Were you bothered by the cliffhanger, Dirty?
I'm sorry. Hold on, Dave. Say that.
Were you bothered by the cliffhanger?
Just a little bit, but I knew it had to be a cliffhanger to come into, season, 7. So it was just a little bit.
Okay. What about you, Frozen? Was it worth the wait, and did it live up to the hype?
I thought it was worth the wait, and it definitely lived up to the hype, especially if you stayed away from the leak, because apparently it got leaked like a few weeks early, and like
hmm
I have like following like the the producers and all that stuff, and apparently like if you actually follow that stuff and like the sets and all that, people found out just by knowing that the characters that were killed weren't on set, and you could easily notice by photos and all that, and it's a good thing I didn't look at any of that.
hmm Well, I mean, one thing about that though, they actually did like a Maggie death scene they threw out this past week, and you had a lot. I mean, it was legit. It was Maggie getting her head bashed in and blood. Basically she looking at Negan, and blood pouring through her mouth. And from what I understand, I could be wrong, but I think a lot of people were saying that that was put out there by the producers of the show to throw people off. And some people say that it might be included in the DVD Blu-ray for the season 7 when that comes out. But touching on a little bit more about the whole thing, how you said how people were, spoiling it. I say one thing that the cliffhanger did give the internet. It gave the internet, something to do during the time you were waiting for the season 7 premiere. You saw a lot of great videos from different people that really put some time into them. They were judging how the people got out of the van, to whose vision we were looking at from the people that got out of the van. They're like, oh, it's got to be negative. It's got to be Glenn, because that's how Glenn looked when he was his vision getting out of the van. No, it's Michonne. I mean, I've seen so many people go by like the eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing. Very creative videos. Lots of time put into them, you know. And I think that was just exciting. It was something fun to watch. I was one that did watch that stuff, you know, because there were so many people. You had so many people saying, "Oh, it's Glenn for this reason. It's not Glenn for this reason. It's Michonne for this reason. It's not Michonne. It's Daryl for this reason. It's not Daryl." They're giving you both reasons why it would be them and not them. And then you have people that I know it for sure it's that. And then like this past week, they actually released a script, and that script was on point, word for word. What happened in the episode? I mean, even the whole thing down to Rick with the hatchet, like the him throwing up on the RV. They had everything. Him jumping on the walkers, I believe. It was all there in the script. And you had people basically listening to this 99, I think his name's 999 Gaming something. I watch his channel. I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but they were listening to his video and actually picturing it in his head. That's how bad people wanted to know who died. So with me with the finale, oh, and I want to ask you too, with the cliffhanger Frozen, was that, you know, bad for you, or did you not like that, or were you satisfied with it?
I was cool with it because I prefer these kind of cliffhangers instead of like how what was it when they went to the prison and when they went to the prison and time passed. I don't like it when like time passes. I prefer it to leave right off, right where they start, right where they left off.
Mm-hmm.
Glad that they didn't do what they originally were going to do, because originally we weren't going to find out who died until like 3 episodes in, but they changed it because of the fans. The fans were going crazy when they found out they weren't going to find out who died until 3 episodes in, because they were just going to show Alexandria, the kingdom. They were going to show all that stuff in a couple episodes, and then afterwards we probably would have seen the death. But it's
Mm-hmm.
actually good they showed it in the first episode. They got it over with, and now everybody knows, and now everyone can process what happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like just yesterday that the season 6 finale took place. I mean, this came so fast. In reality, it didn't. But the way from the show ended and left you in the cliffhanger, it seems like just yesterday. It's like time flies, you know. And here we are talking about the season 7 premiere. We already seen it. It's done. It's like the anticipation building up to that was very high, and it delivered, I think. You know, I think they delivered, definitely. I mean, you got some, you know, websites and, you know, YouTube channels like IGN, the bigger ones, that are saying, "Oh, the death scenes were a letdown." Get the fuck out of here. I mean, you can't satisfy everybody, and that's a proven fact on the internet.
Most gory deaths that we were given to like the main characters. Like mostly all the other deaths were like bites and like maybe like gunshots and some stuff like that. These are probably the most gory deaths that we're gonna get.
Well, yeah, that you don't get really any more gorier than that. I will say, like Breaking Bad, when Gus got his, you know, blown up in the nursing home, and his eye was like, I believe his eye was hanging out or something. That was pretty gross. But this was literally somebody two people getting their heads bashed in. And let me say before we go any further, which we didn't say, well, I guess we did, but I put it in the title. Spoiler alert! If you you know, don't want to be spoiled and you didn't see it, don't watch this video. And you should judge it by the title. It says spoilers, so I don't want to hear nothing, because we did talk about it in the beginning, but my bad, I forgot, but I did put it in the title, so I don't want to hear nobody complaining. Um, but yeah, I think it delivered. I think it was well worth the hype. I think the cliffhanger last, you know, season was fine by me. It made so much controversy. It was well thought out by the creator of the show. I mean, look, and it just made the season 7 premiere even better than it was. You know, and the funny thing is, when you look at everything, you know, this is a type of episode that we got last night that's usually a mid-season. Well, it's usually a finale. You know, we don't get episodes like that in the premiere. Have we ever got an episode that you could think of that's even on that level for a Walking Dead premiere, or if not any show? I mean, oh, Daniel's here. How's it going, Daniel? Oh, he might be fixing his mic. But yeah, I've never seen a premiere to a show that great. You know, how's it going, Daniel? Are you
Good.
there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Welcome to the podcast. Yeah, I sent you. This was like a last minute thing. I tried. I was waiting on you for a little while. I figured maybe you were seeing a movie or something.
Oh no, I was asleep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we just started it pretty much. I'll give you the questions
Yeah.
I just asked them. First, introduce yourself. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
And this is Daniel Rodriguez. Has a great YouTube channel. Does a lot of reviews, TV show reviews, movie reviews. Everybody's channel will be linked in the description after the podcast is done. But I'm gonna ask Daniel the same question. Did you think the season 7 premiere, did it live up to the hype, and was it, basically, was it worth the wait, in your opinion?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we only waited, what, 3-4 months. The only thing that made it long was deaths, and I knew the deaths were coming. I was spoiled by it like a month beforehand, so it wasn't a huge surprise to me, technically. So for me, I mean, it's everything I thought it would be. Obviously, the 2 deaths, Rick getting broken, and that's it. I wasn't really disappointed by the premiere whatsoever. Brutal, definitely. Glenn's Abraham was brutal, but wasn't as brutal as it could have been.
Well, do you think
notice they didn't show him
Abraham,
getting his head bashed in.
do you think Abraham's death was kind of overshadowed by Glenn's in the premiere?
Everyone's talking about Glenn more than Abraham's.
Yeah, I think his was kind of, more overlooked because Glenn being a bigger character and the way Glenn went out compared to Abraham. Even though it was really cool how Abraham went out, how he said "suck my nuts," but Glenn was literally, the character we've had a long time. I think since the beginning of the show, pretty much in the first season, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But you got to think long-time character, and the way he went out, especially, what made it even worse was, Maggie, they're trying to get her to the hilltop. She's on her knees. That's the worst thing. They're all on their knees. Like, they've never been, like, pretty much put in that position like they were. They've been with Terminus and stuff like that, but, now them all on their high horse, mainly Rick, I would say, got, big kind of, like, confidence to him, like he can't be stopped, because all the people that they took out, and they're basically having to bow down on their knees. And for Glenn looking at Maggie sick, trying to get her help, and then he just gets his head bashed in. And then the worst part, his eyes about bulging out, and he says, I believe he said, "I will find you, Maggie," or something along the lines of that. So I made it like, and then the worst thing, you had Negan like sitting there, basically like, kind of like instigating, something worse, like mocking them, making fun of them, just horrible. You can't get much horrible than that. And I think that's what made the death more, more gruesome, and more for people to feel more sympathy, for Glenn, and upset because he's such a long time running character. And he's one that was like they said, the producers at the end of the Talking Dead, they said that he was the heart of the show. You had Abraham basically, the tough one of the show, and then you had the heart of the show. So they basically, Negan and the survivors basically ripped that group apart, And another thing I want to ask you, Daniel, last season with the season 6 finale, which we both reviewed in, the podcast we did for that. But, with the cliffhanger, did that bother you by any means? The cliffhanger, having to wait?
What was that? Did it bother me?
Yeah, were you bothered by the cliffhanger, after the episode, like meaning months after the episode? Did you think to yourself, "Hey, that really sucks, we have to wait"? Did that bother you, or no?
Not really. The
Not
cliffhanger.
really?
No.
No.
Months of waiting. I kind of agree that it ruined Negan's introduction in a way, but with the premiere, the way it worked, it was all worth it. The months waiting.
Okay. And like I said earlier, do you think it was good for the internet how they had all these prediction videos and how I think it gave the internet something to do, leading up to the season 7 premiere. Would you agree or
They did.
okay. Next thing
They
I want
did.
to talk. Oh, okay, okay. You're just cutting a little bit out. That's I wasn't sure if you were done. Uh,
Sorry.
okay. So pretty much, with this episode too, I think it was mainly. Would you say this episode was pretty much to break down the group and Rick? Would you agree, Dirty?
Oh
Mainly,
yeah,
Rick,
uh,
mainly Rick, right?
yeah, most definitely. I mean, like we seen them in difficult situations, but like man, like yesterday, like you really seen you know the hardship between all of them, where it was like they're down on their knees and it was really nothing they could do. You know what I'm saying? It was like they was at their mercy, and for Negan to show Rick's group like I can break your leader and watch me do it, and he actually did it. You know what I'm saying? And then just to leave them there with with the two dead friends with their head bashed in, and everybody just left. It was I was like, damn. You know what I'm saying? It's like you really felt, you know, it's like you really felt for them. You know what I'm saying? Like it was actually real.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Frozen. With this episode, would you agree that it was mainly, or disagree, that it was mainly an episode to do with breaking down the group, especially Rick?
Yeah, most definitely, because
Mhm.
it was mainly about Rick, especially when he put him through that stuff on the RV and with the walkers.
Okay. What about you, Daniel? Would you agree that this episode is basically to break down, like, well, what Negan was doing was breaking down the group and, basically Rick?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Um,
Breakdown.
yeah.
Negan taking.
Okay, okay. Yeah, because if you look how they basically broke down the group, I think the group was pretty much broke the fuck down. Like, I think off the rip, they were pretty much, after seeing Abraham get his head bashed in, and then the whole thing with Glenn. Well, I think Abraham was enough for the rest of the group. I think Eugene was he was done. But the one thing why Negan continued it so long and put them through so much torture, especially Rick, because Rick was basically looking at him like, "Hey, I'm gonna get you, motherfucker!" Like he still had that look in his eye, like I'm gonna still get your ass. And Negan just kept seeing that, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna have to take this further and further." Now, I think Negan does get enjoyment out of doing that. I think he was enjoying it. See, one thing people don't take into consideration, we watch the group because we love them because, that's who we see the eyes of the Walking Dead through of the show. But what if we were watching it through, Negan's group and, the ones at the radio station that got knifed in their fucking sleep? I think that's pretty horrible. You're sleeping and somebody just drives a knife through your head. So really, this is retaliation. And if you look at it at that point of view and take out the fact that you love Daryl, you love Rick, you love Maggie, take that out of consideration. Would it be as horrible as it was? Dirty?
I still think so.
You do? I mean, we've seen Rick and them do some pretty fucked up shit. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Rick them have done some, some things, you know what I'm saying? Just like you said, with, killing, the guys in their sleep. But, you look at it as, you look at them as basically like they're the heroes. You know what I'm saying? It's like you you got more feelings for them because they're not out there trying to, you know, um, you know, take from other people and be like wild animals. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you rooting for them. So it's like if they got to kill some people when they sleep, then go ahead and do it because we want them to survive.
Well, you got to take this into consideration. Rick and them didn't even consider talking to Negan at all. Like even like they're like, no, we're just gonna go get these fuckers, take them out, done. You know, they're just taking the word of the hilltop. You know, that's all they did. They took the word of the hilltop. That's like you not really knowing me. You're like, I'm like, yeah, those motherfuckers are bad. They came here, put some of our men, captured some of them, beat one with a bat. You're just taking my word, somebody you just met. You know, and one thing you got to take in consideration, like I said, they did some horrible things themselves. You had Carol in the prison that dragged people out that were still alive and burnt them to death and, you know, basically just killed them and burnt them to death.
Yeah.
And I'd say she killed them first, then burned their bodies. So I'll take that back. But she still killed people that were alive that maybe could have been saved. Carol did some horrible stuff too. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like they're not the, you know, they're people we love because we watch the show through their eyes. But if you really look at the whole thing, you know, on both sides of the fence and don't just look at it from the Rick side of things, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the way Negan went about it, but Negan had to make a point. You know, he knew he was up against some really bad people too. They killed a lot of his men. So how are you going to control somebody like this? You know, so I mean, was it really that bad compared to what they did? I think not really. I'm just going with me. I know we're not here to all agree with everything, but I can see it, you know, from both sides of the thing. And one thing people are going to have to take into consideration too, they're going to make Negan into a big character in the show. He might have episodes where you just see Negan, you know, where it's just nothing but Negan, you know, because they said that this show is a new show now. It's like refreshed. It's like a reboot. Negan's going to be a huge character on this show. What about you, Frozen? What's your thoughts of all what we just discussed? Do you think that, you know, do you think it was that bad as people thought it was, or, you know, judging about it like that, like actually seeing what Rick and the group did to his men, you know, because really it's retaliation.
Really, if you really think about it, they attacked Daryl first when they were on motorcycles, and then Daryl blew him up. And then he kind of just like took the hilltops word for it, even though Negan was probably going to still come for him anyway. You know what I mean? He probably would have gave for him eventually. They probably would have met up. And they probably would have raided that place and killed more people. Think about it. But it's still pretty bad. 2 characters are dead. And then he's probably going to get more characters. Maybe one more main character might die. You never know.
Yeah, what's your...
Everybody always looks at it like it's from that way in, but if you look at Rick now and you compare him to Shane, he's basically the same thing as Shane right now.
Yeah, he's not the best character as people like to say. He does some hard, like the last season when he just beats that guy. Like she's like, shoot him. He just goes and fucking shoots the guy like nothing, like it's nothing. Like blew the guy's head off. I know the guy's bad, but you know, Rick has changed over the seasons. He's not the same Rick we once knew. And same thing with Glenn. Glenn's changed, not as much as like Rick or anything, but they all have changed. You got Glenn in season 6 killing people in their sleep, which the old Glenn wouldn't have done something like that. You know,
up to Morgan to like kind of like help them out. Morgan's like the only one that has that
yeah, see, that's the thing. Yeah, you bring a great argument. Morgan, I didn't even think about that. Morgan is actually the one that sees like Rick and them doing horrible shit. He actually thinks like that. He's like, we don't have to kill people. Like, you know, Rick just believes we have to go. It's like Rick's like it's going to go this way and that way. You know, he's like we got to kill these people, and that's the only way he looks at it. You know, it's this way or no way. And then you got Morgan's like, no, there is an option. We don't have to kill them. You know, and you know, could that get that has backfired on him with Morgan with, you know, what was it, the Wolves? That was the name of them in the basement when they had one of them captured.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you on this, Daniel? What do you think about it? Do you think it was as horrible? Like looking at it of like Negan's side of things, and you know, take your eyes out of just the group itself that we loved and we watched. Like, is it really that bad what Negan did? You know, what do you think?
Well, he, of course, he's trying to show that you know, everything is his. But yeah, getting back to them as people for multiple times, I do think, you know, all the stuff that Rick's group did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I mean, Negan obviously has Daryl, so he's going to do more stuff to season and stuff like that. But he did to, you know, they've been hearing Negan. Now that they met the guy, they know that he's not like a force to be messed with. So he has to show dominance and that he's like the king of the land. So yeah, I don't want Rick's group to, you know, get hurt, but it'd be done so he could show dominance like that, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Russell Hunter says, shout out to Russell Hunter and Video Game Lover 58. Russell Hunter says, well, first Video Lover 58 says it was an incredible episode, which I agree, and I'm sure everybody else would. Did you guys agree it was an incredible episode?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Russell Hunter gives us a question. He says, does it make sense that a lot of the people are going to quit on the show because of this? I didn't hear that. Did any of you guys hear that? Or
Well, remember at first when we was trying to figure out, like, you know, who got killed and stuff like that, and a lot of people was like, oh, if it's Daryl, I'm not watching the show, and blah 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 blah. And I mean, I heard a few people like say that, you know, if it depending on who the person was that Negan killed, they was like, I'm going to be done with the show. I even seen one where the guy thought it was going to be Maggie, and he was doing like a live reaction, and he was like, he said if it was Maggie, that would have been cruel because she was pregnant. He said if it would have been Daryl, he would have stopped watching the show. I'm like, wow.
I think he's meaning, I mean, I understand he might be meaning that too, how you just answered it. But he says, does it make sense that a lot of people are going to quit on the show? From what it sounds to me, are you meaning like Daryl and the actual Andrew Lincoln is going to quit, or people like that because they're upset what happened? Or do you mean like people are going to quit watching the show? Because how you wrote the question, that's how I got it. But if that is it, like how Dirty answered it, I totally agree. You know, I agree totally with Dirty on that. What about your guys' thoughts, Frozen or Daniel? What's your thoughts on, does it make sense that a lot of people are going to quit on the show because of this? That's what he said, Russell Hunter.
Well, I've seen a lot of people, because I'm on a Facebook Walking Dead group, and people are saying like I'm breaking up with The Walking Dead, and like little like I'm done character. And I don't, you know, I guess cliche, but you're not a true Walking Dead fan if you're just gonna stop because of a character died. I mean, you said that your favorite character was gonna live throughout the whole series for one thing. I'm pretty sure Rick's gonna die one day. So it's part of the, if it doesn't get hurt or die, it'd be safe the whole entire time. But I think it's just stupid. You're leaving in the best time. Like, it's changing course.
You're gonna be leaving. Yep, I totally agree. Well, I mean,
yes.
That's how it is. You can't satisfy everybody. It's almost impossible. Like, in our eyes, that was one of probably the great, at least my eyes, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm sure you guys would agree. It's at least one of the greatest episodes we've ever seen in the Walking Dead, if not the greatest. You know, and I'm sure if you've watched the show and you watched up to this point, a lot of people could agree with that. I mean, I think people are taking it too much to heart, you know, that they killed off Glenn. And I know people are going to be upset about that, because especially after the whole dumpster thing, I think the dumpster thing was kind of like a test on how people will take Glenn getting his head bashed in. You know, that's why I think I think they did the whole dumpster thing, just to see how people are going to take this, like, you know, long-running character finally leaving The Walking Dead. Because what a lot of people seem to forget all the time is The Walking Dead has been, this is like its 7th year, I believe. You know, it's been going for 7 years. It's a long time, and it don't seem like that. But, you know, people get used to characters, and they don't want to let characters go. They start thinking of them like family members and shit, you know? So, and like I believe it was Daniel said, you know, and I heard the show creator say this one, or even one of you guys I know said this, that you know, Andrew Lincoln will die one day, and that is true. They said they're going to kill Rick off eventually. It may not be tomorrow, like he said to Negan. It may not be the next day, but it's going to be, you know, eventually it's going to happen. You know. And then who knows how that's going to go? Because I don't think The Walking Dead's going to be a happy ending for a show. I really don't. I don't see a happy ending for that show when they finally do wrap it up. But yeah, I hope we answered your question the best of our ability, Russell Hunter. He says some fans are quitting on the show. Okay. Yeah, they say that, Russell, but, you know, they said that during the cliffhanger, and they watched the premiere, right? You know, everybody said, oh, I'm leaving after this cliffhanger. You can't please everybody. It's almost impossible. And that's with a lot of things. It's not just TV shows. It's not just movies. It's not just video games. It's a lot of things. You're always going to have an upset group of people. It never fails, you know. But yeah, thank you for your question, man. If you got any more, just ask away. So basically, we talked about, let's go a little bit more into this whole thing when how, like, with Rick basically getting broken down. You know, you had the whole thing basically, you know, pretty much they picked up the show, started it right when we saw that sneak peek where you had Negan basically in his face, pretty much, you know, with Rick saying he's going to kill him eventually. And then, you know, he asked Simon, he's like, what does he have, Simon? And he's like, a hatchet? And he had an axe. And he's like, a hatchet? You know, and he pretty much takes Rick's weapon, puts it under his belt and basically takes Rick like an animal, like a dog, and just throws him into the fucking RV. And pretty much it leads up to this point where he's basically, you know, puts the hatchet right on the table. Now I have to ask you guys, would have you went for that hatchet, or would have you just said, fuck this shit? You know, because basically, you know, you got to think too, he pretty much just saw Abraham and Glenn get their heads knocked in. So would you go for that, knowing all the men are out there, Daniel?
No. Even though if I would know it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't have done it.
Okay. What about you, Frozen? What would have you done in that situation? What do you think? Well, in your eyes, what do you think the best thing for Rick to have done in that situation?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
The best thing I would say is I don't know how, but maybe he would have to somehow take Negan hostage or something. That would probably be the best thing. Even though he has his friends, like he would have to do like the same thing, like take him hostage.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe because that was their RV, right? Was that their RV?
Yeah.
Well, if Rick was smart, he would have had guns like hidden within the RV, like in certain areas, so that he would have been prepared for if something does happen where they do get one of their vehicles, and he would have like like a backup plan.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Dirty? What do you think? Was that the best thing Rick could have done what he did, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I mean, everything is like, you know, it's like a rush. So it's like, okay, I would have just, you know, played it, just, you know, just been calm, because I'm like, you know what, I can always get this dude at some point. Right now, it's not a good idea, because basically, you know, he got your people out there, and plus, too, when he told Rick to grab that axe, I did leave a gun on there, because Negan didn't get on that RV with a. The only gun he had was the one he took from Carl, and I remember him putting it in his pants, and then Rick on the RV, and Rick grabbed that axe. remember he got up and he had one of their guns, one of them big submachine guns. So he left a gun on there, but it was up there at the driver's seat where Rick was. I mean, Abraham was. So that must have been Abraham's weapon.
Yeah, that might have been. That might have been. I think that's where he got that from, because he didn't have it going into the RV. So that probably was Abraham's weapon.
That's why he was telling Rick to grab it. He was like, if you think you can, if you think you can do it, grab it. Do it. I dare you. See, Rick didn't know. And when Rick jumped up and grabbed it, that's when Megan jumped up and he had that submachine gun pointed at him. And I'm like, where the hell he get that from? And then I thought about it. I'm like, that must have been Abraham, because Abraham was doing all the driving.
Now, this is a question I want to ask, and kind of was on my, something I was thinking about. Say Rick did get a hold of Negan in that RV. Okay, let's go with the theory that Rick, let's say if this happened, what if Rick would have got him hostage? How would have went? Because you got, basically Rick's group out there, basically hostages too. So, I mean, what do you think would have went down if that did happen? How do you think it would have played out, Frozen?
Well, the truth is, a lot of the Negan's guys, most of them are hostages. Like, most of them are like Rick. They were like, when they were first, like, I guarantee you, probably most of those guys within Negan's camp don't like him. Like, they're forced to do everything like Rick is about to start doing. So I'm pretty sure if they realized that he would have got taken over, a lot of the guys within the group probably would have maybe like turned sides. Maybe I could see a lot of people running. Like, I don't think everybody in that group was like officially for Negan. They were actually just doing it because they're forced to do it. Like like that whole episode last season about the White, on how he was forced to do it. He didn't want to be part of it, but as you can see, he burned his face off, and he had no choice.
See, they didn't show that to us though. We're assuming that from the comics, which I assume will happen. In the show, they'll show a flashback of that or something. But like, this is the real question I'm trying to ask. What kind of power does Negan have over these people? Because you got to really think of it. It's one man in charge of all them people. So why don't they just decide to turn on him? Like, why are they listening to him? What does he have on them? Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, what does he have his like own group within a group that's gonna get his back if people do turn on him? Like, why do they fear this guy so much? Like, what's your guys' thoughts on like and opinion of why they fear him so much and why they listen to him so much? Because it's only one person. Let's go Frozen again, because I've been going with Daniel and Dirty. Frozen, you go first.
I'm thinking maybe it's like either he might, because you said he has a lot of wives. Maybe he might have their like kids, their like friends and wives and stuff, and like for those other people, like some of these other people that are just loners, they don't have nowhere to go. Like maybe it's because he's providing them health and like, you don't know what type of supplies this man has. Like I'm pretty sure they're gonna do like what they did with the governor and show like a whole story about him, and we'll get to see his whole place where he lives and where he interacts with other people. And we'll probably see a lot of these people they are treated by Negan, but they do probably have shelter. He probably gives them food. He probably protects them. Like you got to think about that. Like a lot of these guys maybe just need somewhere to go. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's got to be like a group within a group that really trusts him. Like, you got
Rick.
Rick.
Has his own group. He probably has like his own trusted people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because you got Rick with, his group, like Maggie and Glenn. Well, Glenn's not no more, but I'm saying he had Abraham. He had his group within the group of Alexandria, that he could always fall back on. So Negan must have people that, will follow him to the, the end of life or whatever, like they'll die with him no matter what. Because I just can't see all them people just bowing down to one man and just, say they all hate him or whatever. Then there would be no chance in hell of them doing that. So he has to have something on a group of people, or he has a group that protects him, or, because Simon is his right-hand man. and I'm sure Simon, has been with him for a long time. So that's just a question I want to see. Does anybody else have any theories on that, or that they want us to talk or about that, or we ready to move on from that?
I kind of go with like what Frozen just said. He probably had his own people, and the rest of the people are probably like just people that was alone, or maybe it was 2 or 3 of them, and they was forced into it. So it's like now they got food and shelter and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard for them to break away, because if they break away, where's they going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Going to have their back now.
Mm-hmm.
If you was known to be, or even forced with a group, you start to accept that group. But once you get split from that group, you don't want to be alone anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because you it's harder for you to survive if it's just you than it is when you with a big group. So yeah, I agree with Frozen.
Okay. Yeah, I just I think he's got a group within a group. Like Simon, I would say, is like him, and Simon's group that he has basically, are all the group that he first had in the beginning, and they got his back no matter what. And I agree with what you guys are saying. I'm sure they got some people like Negan, has somebody's wife or something that's, basically a hostage, where they have to fall in line basically, with what he wants, and probably you have people that just depend on him, just wanted a group like they wanted with Rick, and Negan has his way of doing things. Give me half your shit, or you will die, But yeah, any Daniel, any other comments on that, or?
What Frozen said is he's giving them shelter and food. So obviously, if there's food and shelter, they go to him. For something, then they see how he's a dominant and he's showing dominance. Takes their kid or takes their wife. I think in the comics he has many wives. So it's just, you disobey me. So he like lures them in, and then once they're in there, you can't leave me. Kill your wife, stuff like that. So they have to run away. So they have to work for him.
Now, do you guys think that it's going to follow that like the comic books, or do you guys think it's going to be a little bit different with the whole? If you don't know, let me say this first. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to be spoiled by, well, I don't want to really go into that because I don't want to spoil people in future shit. I mean, you got to really think we just seen this, so that's really what I want to stick with. I don't want to, because I know somebody got mad one episode. I was actually spoiling comic stuff, and I remember somebody got mad, so we won't go into that area. But yeah, just theories of like with this episode, because it could be different from the comics. That's the thing. They could do things differently. So basically, you have Rick after that scene, basically where he went for the hatchet, and then Negan turned around with basically, I would assume, I agree with you guys, it was Abraham's weapon or somebody's submachine gun. And then basically they end up going on a ride, and you got Negan driving all crazy. And one part I really liked, and I thought it was kind of really cruel, but it was kind of funny too. He tells Rick, he hits a walker, and he says, "Does that remind you of anybody?" Like, that was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was kind of fucked up, and you saw Rick just kind of like kind of glare to the side, then looked forward, and kind of like with this delirious look, like he didn't even know what to think. Like he was like just totally, he's like, that's, you could tell Rick wanted to like probably kill him, but he just can't. He's locked down. He's like, can't do nothing. I mean, they got the group. They got guns behind them and shit. They're not doing nothing. And he ends up taking Rick basically back to the part where they all basically learned this. I would say that's where they learned that Negan's group was a fucking big group, because they moved all those trees and stuff in that road to block the road to the hilltop. And I would say that's where they learned, like, hey, we're not dealing with just any ordinary group. This is a big number of people. and he pretty much takes Rick's hatchet, throws it on the roof of the RV, and tells him to go get my hatchet. You know, what did you guys think of that scene? Did you guys enjoy this scene or dirty?
Man, that was just cruel. You know what I'm saying? It's foggy out there and it's a bunch of walkers, so you could barely see, so many feet in front of you. And he go tell him to go find my hatchet and bring it back to me. I was like, wow. So basically, he was really breaking down with. First, he wanted to see how well. I think he wanted to see how well Rick can survive, but he was also breaking him down as well. So that proved him that, in Rick's right state of mind, he's nothing to mess with. You know what I'm saying? Just like himself. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I got somebody that can go toe to toe with me at any time, because after he seen what I did to Abraham, he said that he was going to kill me. And I just bashed one of your people heads in. And you're going to look at me in the face, in my eyes, and tell me that you're going to kill me? Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I will kill you? Yeah.
What about you on that part, Frozen? With the whole thing with basically Negan throwing Rick's hatchet on the roof and then telling him, go get my hatchet, like it's pretty much his now. And, with him basically having to go through this, like, I would say, Walker obstacle course. like basically, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that definitely was a little bit messed up. He was basically saying, you're mine, you're gonna do what I say. If you don't, I'm gonna kill your friend. So he basically, he wanted, like, when I see him on top of the RV, he basically wanted to die, and then Negan's like shooting the roof of the RV. He says, no, you're gonna go do it. You're gonna bring it down here. It was a good thing they didn't cut that walker down, because they were gonna cut that walker down, the one that he jumped onto. It's a good thing they didn't cut that down. That actually saved his life. That chain that he went up and jumped onto.
Yeah.
Daniel, what's your thoughts on that whole scene with the whole thing with Rich having to go fetch his hatchet?
I love all the scenes so far in this premiere. So with that, actually seeing Negan outside of the whole, it was interesting for me to, just see down that Rick's going through. Of course, it's horrible, but it's seen it actually watch it, and Andrew is sweating and he's panting out there fighting the walkers without any weapons. So it's horrible what Rick's going through. It's entertaining for me to see it.
Okay. For me with the whole thing, basically it was a part to break Rick down. Very horrible way to be broken down, but it's a very effective way what he does. It works. It took a while to work with Rick, but your most average person, that would work very fast. I think it would have worked after Abraham. maybe before Abraham. Most people wouldn't even made it to that point where they probably would have passed out, had a seizure or, hyperventilated, whatever. Because it is true. If you ever get in a fight in real life, most people will talk shit to you in your face, but the minute you start fucking throwing punches, I've seen people just go like this, please stop. Most people just horrible. Like, in a situation like that, you get on your knees. Now you're taking the leader of the group, throwing him an RV, making him do this, like, basically challenge, with all this shit going through his head. He just saw two of his closest, well, I'd say Glenn since the beginning, and he kind of got along with Abraham, but basically members of his group, heads bashed in, thrown out of the RV, and go fetch my hatchet. and he's like trying to process all this, and pretty much surrounded by a decent amount of walkers in a fog, and his mind isn't all there, and pretty much, he's fighting for his life to get to that hatchet. And you got to think the hatchet's on the roof, so he's fighting these walkers with just his hands. And I mean, they were coming pretty damn close. when he finally gets on the RV and he just sits there and just, that's when we get the scene. They go into the whole thing with basically Abraham and, Glenn's death, but he's just sitting there. He don't know what to do, and he's just sitting there with the hatchet. And you have Negan in the RV basically telling him, hurry up, And I just thought it was really a really well done scene. The whole show, but that was really well done how they did that. So then after that part, you have Negan telling him, hurry up, Rick. And he ends up firing the fucking machine gun through the top of the RV where Rick jumps onto this walker. And basically, he has all these other walkers at the bottom, and it's pretty much pulling the walker apart. And then if it wasn't for Negan opening the window and firing and shooting, mowing down these fucking walkers, Rick would have been dead. Rick, this could have been the end of Rick. It could have been the end if it wasn't for Negan, pretty much, toying with him, he could have let him just die. And it was even more fucked up when Rick finally gets to the RV, he locks the fucking door,
Yeah.
and that wasn't that fucked up.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, and you had so many people trying to figure out what this whole RV scene was. Remember when they had the shot of the RV and basically Negan sticking out with a gun? I don't think anybody guessed that. I don't think, So then you get back in the RV and basically, he still sees that Rick just is still the same. He kind of hands him the hatchet and kind of has this look still on his face, I mean, still just not willing to, be how Negan wants. And that's when we end up going back to, back with the group. And this is where he pretty much, let's do the flashback. So with the whole thing with Abraham, let's talk about Abraham's death a little bit. So basically, it flashes back. They bring us back to, the whole thing with the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Did you guys like how they started it up? Did you guys like that, or would you rather just have them start from the head bash?
Oh, go ahead, Frozen.
I would just say it's good to give a good refresh of everything, because not everybody, I watched I bought the Blu-ray because I wanted to see the uncut version, but I recently watched it a month ago. So, but not everyone I'm not trying to say not everyone remembers, but people want to see it builds up everything. Now, I know a lot of people now this is one reason why I do not watch it on Premiere. A lot of people were pissed off because it took to 2 commercial breaks before they showed who died. I for one record it and I watch it once it's over so I can skip the commercials. But I thought it was fine. I didn't have an issue with it.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. I'm not trying to sidetrack, and this is with a lot of shows. It's not just The Walking Dead. Same thing with American Horror Story, The Exorcist, TV series. I've noticed so many more commercials on these shows. I think an hour show, you're getting it seems to me, this is just my opinion, you're getting a 25-minute show. It's what it seems like, 30 minutes tops. It's it almost feels like it's a half-hour commercials, a half hour of a show. Let's be realistic, it's probably 40, 45 minutes, but I'm just saying it feels to me like a half hour of commercials, a half hour of a show. It really does. Even though I know this episode went 6 minutes longer, it just feels like it was 30 minutes. I mean, it really does.
Dave, I was disappointed that because the last season premiere was an hour and a half. Why wasn't this one longer? You know what I mean? Why can't they? You know what I mean? The season 6 premiere was an hour and 30 minutes. Why did it not do that with this episode?
Well, that's how I felt with I was thinking it was going to be an hour and a half or something, because when I went and checked my guide on my TV, I thought it was going to be an hour and a half, but it wasn't. So
finale needs to be 2 hours.
I mean, one thing we gotta be grateful, we got to see a good episode. That's one thing I'm not complaining at all with this episode. I get bitch about commercials. I hate commercials, but it's what pays for the show. I mean, that's why I prefer HBO and Showtime. I love watching shows on that because I don't have to watch commercials. I mean, thank God for DVRs, but I mean, I was watching that from the get-go. I wasn't waiting for the show to air, and I was watching it right from when it aired at 9 o'clock. But yeah. So basically, going back to the whole thing with Abraham, did you guys like Abraham's death? Did you think it was fulfilling, or what did you not like his death? Because I know it seems like it was very overshadowed because Glenn's death was basically, more of, I'd say more brutal than Abraham's. Even though Abraham's was really brutal, I mean, just the eyeball popping out and all that. But did you guys? And let me start off with this too. Did you think that was the right character to pick? What have you had? Are you upset that Abraham's gone, or are you not? Frozen.
Not really. I originally I don't remember who I chose. I think maybe I did say Abraham. I was kind of mad that Daryl wasn't the one because they always get away with Daryl can do anything and he'll never get killed because the fans love him so much. He'll never get killed. You know what I mean? But like, if you've been watching like season 6, like his progression, like look at him, like his character's like he's looking up in the sky. He's like you can feel like he's like getting ready to move on. You know what I mean? Like I think even some of the producers even talked about how Abraham, he's not like how he was when you first seen Abraham, but now he's definitely evolved and he's not like this like how he was when we first seen him.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely like a better place. Like you can see he's a lot more like hopeful, and he has like a lot more enjoyment of life. And you could see that when he was kneeling there, he was the only one that didn't seem afraid. He was the only one that was looking up with like he says, yeah, I'm ready. If it's coming to me, I'm ready. And I'm gonna go out like how he is. He told him to suck his nuts, and he continued. And I don't know if he laughed, but it would have been cool if he started laughing.
Well, they said, I heard that. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I mean, one thing you got to take into consideration with me saying this, I saw the episode one time. I will be watching it again tonight. But I was watching a video that said things you may have missed during the episode, and I think he gave like somebody, or it's either Abraham or somebody gave a peace sign or something. Did you guys notice that, or?
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm gonna have to watch it again then.
Yeah, they said that I think it was. I could be wrong, but I could have sworn I just heard in a video that it was a video of things you may have missed in the season 7 premiere, and I think he gave a peace sign, or somebody gave a peace sign. Maybe it was Negan. I don't know. I'll have to watch it again, but I heard somebody gave a peace sign during that of Abraham getting killed. Daniel, Abraham's death. Were you satisfied with that, or did you not want to lose Abraham? Did you?
Said it. I thought it was, but with the beating, like it could have been more brutal. Of course, he's getting his head back down, and half of his head's gone. The other half is just mush. You heard Negan hitting the, but they actually had getting beaten in when he was on the ground and blood squirting everywhere. They cut away for a few seconds with Glenn, but most of Abraham's death was those reactions. I wanted him to actually shoot like just how Glenn was, but with Abraham, he doesn't have to have his eye popped out, but he could show his head actually just face and stuff like that too. So I thought it could have been more brutal. You have one chance to do Abraham's death or any person's death. It was just too easy for Abraham, where they didn't show him getting beaten up as much as Glenn did.
Well, the thing is, one thing.
So it was good, but it was sort of a letdown.
Well, I agree with you to an extent, but the one thing you got to take into consideration, I think Abraham's death was brutal, and it was good how he went out. But I think with what happened to Glenn, it just overshadowed it so much. So where if we take out Glenn's death and that didn't happen, I think we would be talking about Abraham's death a lot more than what we are. Like, I'm talking in general with everybody doing videos about this or anything like that. I think his death would have been more of an impact. Glenn's death being a bigger character, his eyeball popping out. I mean, if you take that out of the equation, like that didn't happen, just Abraham's death, I think it would have been satisfying. But when you do something like how they did with Glenn, I mean, how do you top that? Like his eyes bulging out. What do they have? Both Abraham's eyes bulging out? Like, what can you do to top that? I think they did a good job saying "suck my nuts," and he went out like like a champ. Took it like a champ. One thing too, I'm really surprised they're allowed to do that on TV. In my generation, and I'm sure Dirty's generation, I don't know. I know Daniel's younger, and Frozen. How old are you, Frozen? You there, Frozen?
Yeah, I'm like 23.
Okay, so you're still kind of young too. But I'm just saying, back in the day, you would not see shit like that on primetime TV. People get right, Dirty. Am I wrong or?
Yeah, you're right. Like Prime TV has definitely changed.
Yeah, you would never see people getting their heads bashed in on TV. It would never go down like that. That's why, like, for people like at my age, I'm shocked by it. I was like, holy shit, they put that on TV? Like, there used to be a time when they would play things on fucking pay channels. Like, you would have to wait till after certain times to see things on pay channels. Now they're putting shit on during the day, and yeah, we're gonna rerun The Walking Dead. People getting bows through their eyes. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I would say that was the most brutal scene on TV. I mean, would you guys say, or that you've seen in a show? What can you say that could compare to both? Let's use both the deaths. Is there
Actual television, like actual television, like cable, or like everything?
I'm talking about a television show, an actual television. Now, there is one show that can compare to that was pretty brutal.
I can't compare that because you got to pay to get that, though. Like
no, but I'm saying Hannibal. Hannibal was on NBC, and that was a brutal show, and they took that shit off the air because of that. That was one reason why there was people complaining about it. It was too fucking it was gruesome. That was part of the bad feedback that show had. But what shows could you guys compare to that would have that type of I would say brutality in a show on television that you've seen, even close to that?
The only thing I could say, but it doesn't really count, is Game of Thrones. But Game of Thrones is on HBO.
That's not fair. That's a paid for. And let's be real, Game of Thrones is almost like a movie. It is in a way. It's no commercials. It has some better special effects than movies. I'm saying like actual television. Like The Flash, like that's what I'm saying. The Flash is on TV, like shows not like The Flash. I'm saying a show like that on NBC, ABC. Like, what's on that level of brutality that you can tell me? Anybody in the comments too, you're more than welcome. I mean, the only thing I could think of recently would be, I mean, Salem's a pretty gruesome show. If you ever seen Salem, I mean, I don't know. That's pretty brutal, I'd have to say. But we'll move on from that. Next thing I want to talk about, okay, so we talked about Abraham's death, which I'm satisfied by it. And that was actually the person I went with at the beginning. Then when we started hearing it was two people, I still went with Abraham, but I had no guess what they were going to do with the second one. Glenn, I mean, it was like, you listen to all these videos of what people say. It was like, maybe, I mean, at one point, people had everybody thinking it was everybody, Yeah, let's basically pick that. Who did you guys think was going to go? Daniel.
Like I said, I already knew who was going to die. And before I even knew, I never knew was going to try this when I heard it was two people, but I always thought it would just be Glenn or Daryl. It was only those two, Glenn or Daryl. But I'm still surprised Abraham's the one. Like, I would have wanted Daryl too to have. I think that's why Daryl even hit Negan, because he thought, oh, if I die or whatever, then he's pissed because Abraham died. But I don't think Daryl knew that it would have affected Glenn in that way. So.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic we're about to just get into too.
Daryl.
So you didn't like that they picked Abraham, or?
Again, knowing for so long, I don't know how I originally thought, but Abraham, I mean, it could have been Eugene. It would have been more disappointing if it was Eugene. Was either like some B character, some side character. But they could have used Abraham, even though he's a force, and he could fight back. maybe it'd be hard to break him, but they could have used him as the saviors, and they could have damaged him mentally or whatever so they could work. He could be their slave or whatever. They could have done that too. He would have been like a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I even would have said that Maggie would have been if they would have killed Maggie and pregnant and all, but then so she could have died too. And I don't know, I'm fine with Abraham, of course, but I just want it like big. Like Abraham's big, but he's still a side character. When you think about it, it would be Daryl or Glenn. Glenn died, but if Daryl would have been picked more,
well, we did
more
get
surprised.
See, the thing is, Abraham really is. He's the one that died. So did Glenn. But see, Glenn is a main character. I mean, I don't think they could have done two big characters. I think that would have been too much. Then you would have had people probably get really mad. Like, I'm with you. It wouldn't have. I mean, I like Daryl, and I hate to say this. The whole thing with Daryl, with him getting up and basically laying Negan on his ass, I thought that was amazing. I liked it, but that was the most Daryl has done in how long? Like, how many seasons? Like, what do we usually see Daryl doing on the show?
Riding a bike or like hunting or something dumb like that.
He's such a great character, but he's so useless at the same time. Like, they don't.
But everybody loves him. Everybody loves him because of that. I guess I don't know.
What, that he's he's like the heartthrob of the show. Like, girls love him. I understand that, but he don't do nothing. Like, this episode was the most useful he's been by putting somebody actually standing up to Negan, and fucking laying him on his ass. Somebody, but it costed, the group Glenn, which is, not a good thing. I mean, I don't. But the thing is, that's the most I've seen fucking Daryl do. Like, I wouldn't have been that. It would have sucked. I think the one thing about Daryl, he gives like characters The Walking Dead. He's kind of like the Walking Dead mascot, if that makes sense. People see him with his crossbow. I've seen it on so many posters. Like, he's a big thing to the show. He's pretty much, like in people's eyes. I'm talking the fans' eyes. He's pretty much like a character like Rick, to some people. And, I believe if he did die, I think people would stop watching the show if he died. I do. But yeah, if I'm with Daniel, I wouldn't have minded if seeing, two of the big characters die, but I knew they weren't going to do that. That would be too much, and that would cause some bad controversy for the show. I think they played it safe, but gave us an awesome fucking episode, What about you, Frozen? Were you happy with Abraham? First one to go, the way he went out,
I was kind of fine with it because, like, after really rewatching, I could see why they picked him. And, and like as far as like those other characters, like Rosita and like Eugene and like those other ones, they didn't really look like threats. Abraham was the biggest guy there. So, it's kind of like a tactical thing if he really thought about it. Like, this guy's actually big. Let me take him out,
Well, too, the reason he chose Abraham and he chose Glenn, Abraham, I know for sure, he saw Abraham was the one bowing up to him. He was the one that was going to be, he knew he had his hands full with Rick, and Rick being one that he's going to have to break in because he's the leader and he's a strong leader. But then he saw Abraham, and just how Abraham was like acting towards them and just bowing up, he's like, hey, I'm going to take out their muscle. And it puts them in their place, really, because, hey, I just took out one of your biggest guys, and you ain't doing shit about it. And that makes it easier for Negan to control the group, That's why I believe he took out, Abraham. But, Old Dirty, did we get you yet on this with the whole thing with Abraham's death? Did you feel it was the right fit? Did you was that your choice, or did you, would you had it been somebody else, or?
I was cool with Abraham, but I was my first thought, doing the season finale, I thought it was like Eugene, since they had caught him and stuff like that. But maybe like a couple of days ago, when we seen the trailer, and I seen the blood on Rick's face. I was like, well, the only way Rick can get that blood on him if it's Maggie. So I was like, yeah, damn. Well, Maggie's gone, but a lot of people saying, oh, it can't be Maggie. She's pregnant, and how can you do a woman like that in the show and bash her head? And when I'm like, well, it's a TV show. I thought, women got the same equal rights as men. She can't get her head bashed in.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well, Maggie's kind of the eye candy of the show, even though she's kind of like run down really bad on the show looking, but she is one sexy motherfucker when she has her makeup on. But I don't know. I couldn't see them doing a pregnant woman on TV. I really couldn't. I mean, I know they do anything in The Walking Dead, but I don't think that would have flied too well. I really don't. But
the women get a pass in, in The Walking Dead.
I mean, I think if she wasn't pregnant, if that wasn't how the storyline is, maybe. But I don't think they would have done it pregnant, because I saw that comment a lot when because I watch a lot of this, videos to do with guessing of who was killed and all that, and I seen that comment a lot, especially when the whole Maggie theory came up, where everybody was thinking it was Maggie. That was a comment I've seen, numerous times, that they can't kill a pregnant woman on TV. That would be horrible. I knew that wasn't gonna probably happen. But you had some strong videos with some good points that it was Maggie. And they could have done Maggie, because they could have just kept Glenn alive. And they had some people saying, well, they can't have Maggie on the show because now there's going to be two babies. You're gonna have Judith and Maggie's daughter.
Dave,
So.
Dave, you know what? I'm actually thinking, because you're right. Because sometimes we do forget about Judith until we see her. I'm actually thinking that she's going to lose that baby.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she loses the baby. I never really thought of that, but it makes sense you saying that. I could see that happening. Well, they just said they can't. They're going to have two babies on. Are they going to carry two babies with them, the group? And it kind of made sense with that.
Yeah.
But they could go with the storyline. She has the baby. Name it Glenn. It's a boy. Go with that. And that could be a storyline too. Because like I said earlier in the podcast, they have this show is going to be a long running show from what I'm hearing. Like, it's going to go a lot longer, well over 10 seasons. They're saying, if it keeps up how it's been. Okay, so after you have Abraham, basically, get his head bashed in, tells him to eat his nuts or suck his nuts. you have, you have Negan basically taunting Rosita with a bat, like making her look at it. And I don't know when he said it yet. I think he said it when Glenn died, but he might have been a little bit earlier. But I love this part where he's like, look at Lucille, she's a vampire. Like, I thought that was great. And then I think he did that. I don't know when exactly that was, but he was holding the bat at Rosita. He's like, look at it. He's like, isn't she awesome? Like, that was pretty. I would say that's a pretty horrific scene. I thought that was pretty. Pretty horrifying, and you feel pretty bad for the character, because that was Abraham. She was with Abraham before Sasha, and so it was definitely a. What do you guys think of that whole scene with him basically taunting her, making her look at the bat? Daniel, or dirty.
Well, he was just showing that he has control over them. So he's gonna instill that, especially into the women. You know what I'm saying? And she probably would have looked until Dale got up and hit him in the jaw. So he was just he find his way to make his jokes, but he's also making a point to them as well. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of heartless, but you're going to do it as I say. So.
Okay. Anybody else on that whole thing with Rosita basically getting taunted by Negan with the bat of blood with Abraham's blood on it?
I think he was kind of doing it because she was a chick too. Because I know he has like a whole bunch of wives and stuff like that. I could see him like there could be a segment probably based on that later on in the season. Because you can see like everyone that was there. I didn't see any chicks there holding guns. Did you? I didn't see any of them holding guns.
Nope.
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see any of that there. So.
Well, you did have, now a lot of people forgot, you had that one chick last season that, you had the whole thing with Carol. And
Yeah, chicks were there. They had guns
yes,
and stuff.
Negan does have leaders that I'm seeing. I assume she was a leader that are women, so I don't know. I like that character. I wish they didn't kill her off, but I kind of liked her character for some reason. So after that scene, basically, let's talk about this whole thing with we touched on it a little bit, but I want to get everybody's full thoughts on it. Basically, Daryl getting up, laying Negan on his ass, definitely had some balls doing that. I would say if you were to do something like that, especially the situation where you're outnumbered, you're fucked, you just saw somebody get their head bashed in with a bat, knowing you have a good chance of getting your head bashed in with a bat after that, would you guys get up and just lay Negan out?
If I was Daryl, yes, because they don't do anything to Daryl. He gets away all the time.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're in the, let's put this without the TV show. Let's say this really happened. Would you do something like that?
I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. So the bad thing that Daryl did is he basically, and I don't know how it's going to go with the show. I mean, I'm sure Daryl's going to be bothered by it, but he basically got Glenn killed. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. Because when Glenn did it, he said that was a free shot. Nobody does that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He said he gonna shut that shit down.
Shut that shit down. So basically, yeah, Daryl got Glenn killed. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think let me ask you guys, because there's people on the internet that is mad. Are you guys bothered by Daryl getting Glenn killed? Do you feel he killed Glenn? Or are you mad at Daryl as a character? Dirty.
Shit, that's kind of hard. I would say no, because Daryl goes off instincts. You know what I'm saying? Like if something happened to someone in the group, Daryl is the first one to leave. Daryl is the first one to track them and all this stuff. At the beginning of The Walking Dead, when he finally was accepted, when he finally accepted the group, he the one that did all the tracking and when stuff happened to people, he was ready to go. So it's like Daryl don't think. Daryl was like, no, you can't do that to Rosita. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that to a female. He just off instinct, bam. So no, I don't blame Daryl, because that's his character.
Okay. What about you, Frozen? Were you mad at Daryl? How do you think it's going to go for the rest of the season with Daryl? Is he going to be haunted by what he did? Like, what's your thoughts?
I don't know. I think it really depends on what Maggie has to say, because Maggie is probably like the biggest one that will probably say something to Daryl. Like if she really blames him about what happened. And like another thing is, like, I feel like as though Daryl, he's just going to go unscathed the whole season. Like obviously he has to be getting put through some sort of torture, but like maybe he's going to have to get maybe he's going to have to lose an arm or something like that. Like because I feel like Daryl's invincible. They're never going to get rid of Daryl. He's going to remain to the end. You know what I mean? Like unless they actually do something with Daryl, I want to see them actually develop Daryl a little bit better compared to last season where he's just in the forest walking around. And everybody just likes him because he looks cool.
Okay. What about you, Daniel, on the whole thing with Daryl? Do you think are you mad? That's what I mean. Are you mad, or do you think it's going to affect Daryl the rest of the season? What's your thoughts?
No, I'm not like mad for him causing. There's more people out there that are blaming Daryl for that, and of course they don't have to follow, but they don't have to follow the comic book way. And doing the Glenn's death and everything, it was, even though it happened, they didn't have to do it, but they did. So they did it the right way. So there's really nothing to be mad. It was going to happen. That, you know, they did it the justice way. Glenn died, but with Daryl that way, like we've been saying, Daryl hasn't been doing much. Sniffing the dirt and stuff like that. That's all he does. He used to be such a high. Season 4, the end of season 3 is when he actually had stuff to do.
Okay.
Whatever happens to him, he's not my favorite character, and he never was my top favorite character, but he's just there, and whatever. You know, I'm more for Rick and Negan than. But I don't blame him for, like, his fault, but just let it go and deal with. Maggie doesn't really need to talk to. Just let it go and do fight.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
All right. So we got the whole with Daryl. I think it was. I mean, you gotta take into consideration they're such a tough group. They've been through so much with Terminus, the governor. You know, the list goes on. I believe it was the Wolves. You know, so it's hard for them to get on their knees and bow down to this guy they hardly know, and not give him, you know, some kind of, like, you know, punch to the face or something. He just killed one of their members. Or actually, at that point, it was one of their members, and then after Daryl does that, they killed another one. So, I mean, you gotta think that's like your family member on the ground getting fucking their head bashed in. You know, I saw a video somebody made, I believe it was 99.9 Gaming, and he said he was upset. You know, this was after he heard the script spoiler, that he was going to be upset if that's how things went down, because, you know, Rick didn't do nothing, you know, and Daryl was the one that did something. But one thing you got to take into consideration, Rick not only has the group to worry about, he has his he has his daughter Judith, that's just a baby, and he has Carl, which they don't have a mother. That's all they got. Yeah, the group's gonna take them in, like they're gonna take Maggie, you know, and take care of her daughter or son, whatever that is, whether it's girl or boy. But Rick's thinking like that. He's got his daughter to take care of. They don't have a mother, you know. So, I mean, Daryl really, what does he have to lose? He lost his brother. You know, he don't have no family. Rick has a lot more to lose. You know, even though Rick is the leader, you know, I do think on a leader's sense he should have done something. But what can you do in a situation like that? You know, so with Daryl, I mean, I think it was, I felt good when Daryl did that. I was like, that was a good thing, you know, like, it's bad he got Glenn killed, but at least somebody had some balls. It was like, no, even Negan said that. He's like, what did he say to Rick? Does anybody remember what he said to Rick about him being a pussy? At least he has some balls or something. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Something along the lines of that. So basically, let's cut it a little bit shorter. After that, you have the whole thing with Glenn. Let's talk a little bit about Glenn's death real quick, since we touched on it a little bit. How do you think moving forward let's talk with Maggie. How do you think moving forward it's going to be for Maggie without Glenn? Daniel. Are you there, Daniel? Daniel.
Oh, was it my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't. How's it gonna be with Glenn? What's gonna go with her character? Or?
Like, what's the let's just talk about the general effects of the group. Like, how's this gonna affect the group now that Glenn is gone? Long time Glenn.
Rick's right. Well, so was Daryl, but right-hand man, and sort of different. And it's kind of weird. They do comfort when Maggie's like going to Glenn's body, they comfort him. But yeah, they don't go to like Sasha or anyone for Abraham at all. They just go to.
Mm-hmm.
They just go right to Glenn.
Well,
But
you did have Sasha coming up to Rosalita, talking to her, if that's what you're meaning, about Abraham's body, and that she'll help with it, you know.
Like, I mean, mind you, they've known Glenn longer, of course, and he's more closer to them, but still, like dead as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
with Maggie, I think she just becomes more depressed. I don't know if it's after. I think it was after Glenn's test, but it looks like they're not really. There's going to be more stuff at Alexandria and stuff, but it looks like Maggie, her main focus is on getting Negan back, and with Rick's group in them, it'll come up to Tiger and Carol and Morgan, and they get together, and then Hilltop gets together, and then they go after Negan. I think that's what will probably go down. When Morgan is at the moment, so just weeks and weeks, whether it's filler or whether it's whatever they're going to do. Carol and Morgan. They'll
I think that's a long time though in the comics, but there is a prediction that they are. See, I don't want to touch on the comics too much because, you know, it's mainly because of spoilers. I want to talk about like we could have our predictions of what's going to happen with Maggie, like, you know, stuff like that. I just had somebody get mad one time. We were doing a Walking Dead podcast, and I actually ended up saying something from the comics, and they didn't like it. So, because that is kind of a spoiler in a way, even though they could do something differently on the show. But I'm just meaning, like, what is Maggie? Is Maggie gonna get, you know, mad at maybe Daryl? You know, do you think she's pissed at Daryl for what? Because Daryl basically got him killed, you know, or is she just gonna just be mad at Negan and want to get retaliation?
Well, yeah, she could definitely get mad. It depends whenever they get to see Daryl again. It could be whether she ends up, because I think she has to go to Hilltop, so the time she gets to see Daryl, whenever they get to meet each other again, it depends on what goes down in between that time or whenever they get to, you know, meet again. But I think, like I said, you know, it's part of the story. She'll probably will get mad at him, but I feel like there's other stuff that we should be more worried about than her yelling. Like, you wait till the end of the season or when they have a slow moment to talk to each other. That's when, for them to actually talk to each other. But again, I think Daryl, when he did that, he thought that he was going to, and he's out of rage, but maybe he thought he was going to get killed and not Glenn or something. Like, he didn't know Glenn was going to get. Didn't know that was going to happen.
See, the thing this is important, why this is a bad thing, with Maggie does get mad and decides to, you know, not talk to the group, maybe stay at the Hilltop, whatever. You know, you got Glenn dead, Abraham's dead, you got Daryl hostage by Negan. The group is split. The group's not as powerful as it used to be. So they're going to have to, that's going to bring in new members. They're going to have to regroup with new people, join forces. You know, right now the group is broken down. They ain't doing shit. You know, you got Morgan and Carol, but Morgan and Carol, they're off at the Kingdom, you know, so they don't even know about this. So, you know, I don't see Morgan and Carol knowing about this maybe till, like, what, 5-6 episodes in, however long they're going to do that. Because I could see them maybe making the whole Kingdom thing where Rick learns about that maybe in the mid-season finale, maybe after. You know, so I think Glenn's death and Daryl, what he did, is going to affect the group. You know, it's going to definitely, you know, be hard on Maggie. I think you're going to see Maggie get stronger from this. She's going to be more tougher after all this. I think it's definitely going to hurt her for a while because she just lost the father of her unborn baby. So that's going to be definitely a storyline that's coming. And, you know, Daryl, he's going to go through some hell for what he did. So, I mean, just in general, the whole scene of the Glenn, I think they did it perfect. I think it was fucking awesome, you know. I'm a little annoyed that it overshadowed Abraham's, but it was just such a good scene, especially how he's sitting there. He's like, "I will find you," and his eyes bulging out and Negan's just sitting there like fucking just basically like irritating the group and kind of mocking them and making fun of the group at the same time. It's just a really hard scene to watch. Okay, let's cut a little bit faster to the end because this was a pretty long podcast. Uh, Basically the whole thing with the big test at the end, because basically Rick failed all the other tests. He passed them in some ways, but he failed the test in Negan's ways. Yeah, he went through the walkers, jumped on the other walker, did all that, got the hatchet, brought it to Negan, but that was not the actual way to pass the test. So it took pretty much, Negan to basically put guns to everybody's head and basically test Rick in front of the group, which I have to give Negan some, consideration and, and actually praise him a little bit that he was actually, respectable enough to not test Rick in front of the group until the end. He was trying not to make Rick look like a straight out pussy. He did take him away from the group and tested him with just them two. But then it took for him to basically break that motherfucker down in front of everybody and make him just fucking cry and everything else. And literally, I thought it was pretty crazy how he grabbed the marker. He's like, "Give me a marker." And he marked Carl's arm. And I'd say the two toughest of the bunch, this is what I say, the two toughest of the bunch when that all went down, hands down, was Daryl, three, my bad. Daryl, Abraham, and Carl. Carl kept like a straight look, like Carl wasn't a bitch. Like he wasn't. But Carl told his dad, just do it, just do it. And, Rick just finally broke down. What have you guys thought have been more fucked up if Negan actually made him go through with it? Because he did sanitize the blade of the hatchet with peroxide and shit. Do you think that would have been fucked up? Because I was wondering what he was doing at that point. I was like, why is he sanitizing that? He's like, you're gonna need this. Because right there he's seen Rick wasn't still, falling in line. But what do you guys think if it actually would have went where he actually did have to chop his hand off? Would have you guys rather seen that, or did you like how it went dirty?
I actually like how it went. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have to see anybody else, get hurt or, or get killed. So I thought Rick was actually going to do it, but, he stopped him. So that was a relief because I'm like, they've been through enough. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm glad it didn't go through.
Okay, what about you, Frozen?
They definitely teased it. I didn't think they were going to do it, but a lot of people thought he was going to do it to Rick because Rick does lose his hand. And
yeah, but they said they will not do that on TV. Not saying for sure or anything, but it would be very hard for them to do that for some reason. Compared to what they did with Herschel's leg, they said it would be kind of hard to do that. They did tease it. A lot of people thought it was going to be that from the preview, that little preview that we got. Even I did. But according to the show, they're not going to do it. But you never know. But
do it, but I think that it's fine. Like the way they did it, it was fine. All the people complaining about that, like, need to stop comparing it. Like some things are different in the comics.
Cube Master 2007. Yes, I will upload this to YouTube. DOR Sports. I think. Let's see if he's got any. Rick's his type of guy. He locked the doors. Yeah, he did lock the doors during the whole thing with the RV, which I thought was fucked up. The chat wasn't working. It shut off. Okay. And you just got it. Just got in. Okay, yeah. Thank you, CubeMaster 2007, DRO Sports Network, Video Game Lover, and Russell Hunter. Thank you guys for watching the podcast. Still got a little bit more to go. But yeah, so would you say that one more time again, Frozen?
I thought it was cool that it was like that. That I don't want to see anyone else like lose their limbs. Like that's the worst thing you can have is get your hand. Like Carl's already handicapped with one eye.
Yeah.
Losing his hand was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, and Judge and in the comics, Rick lost his. This is before this part in the comics, so this isn't really a spoiler. Because it actually happened when the governor was in the comics. The governor is the one that takes Rick's hand, so maybe they might make Negan do it, or they might not do it at all. I don't know. Would you guys want to see Rick with one hand? I mean,
He'll end up being like Merle, because you remember Merle had one hand, and Merle, like, he had a little sword on his hand. Like, I don't know, it looked kind of like cheesy a little bit, even though Merle was one of my favorite characters before he got killed. But like, I don't know what's up with this handicapping everyone. You know what I mean? Like, do they got to keep doing that? Like
well, I mean, it's basically because you're in a zombie apocalypse. You're facing a lot more danger than you normally would in real life, and you have chances to lose like body parts, break ribs. I mean, a lot can happen. You got to think there's not much of a hospital around, but the Hilltop now. They didn't have that before. So it's easier with all the stuff they're doing, like jumping off things, killing walkers, falling down hills, falling off buildings. Like, you have a good chance to lose a limb or two, or break a leg or an arm, or they're not under normal circumstances. All right, so basically after that part you have with the whole thing, which he basically breaks down Rick, tells him, give me your shit, basically runs it through him one more time of what he wants, and then he decides to leave the group. So then it goes basically with Sasha. I believe she goes up to Rosalita, talks to her about Abraham. Then you have Maggie, basically wanting to. I think she was wanting to take Len's body by herself, and then they said, we will help you, like Rick, and Carl, and she wants retaliation. I understand that they just killed her man, and basically Rick says, Negan said too before that. He said, I'll be first of the week he's gonna come. Or is it every week or every month?
I think it's like every week.
Okay, every week. So basically that's it, and then they have like, which I thought this was a really like kind of sad scene. If you've seen, and kind of gruesome too a little bit, if you see Rick, basically driving off in the RV, he looks back and he sees, I believe it's Abraham. It could be Abraham's blood or Glenn's, but you see the walkers start drinking their blood. So that was a pretty good way to end the episode. Just overall thoughts of the episode. Anything else you guys want to add to this review discussion? Anything dirty?
No, pretty good.
Okay. Frozen?
I thought it would have been kind of messed up if what he did was he would have let Abraham turn and then have Abraham kill Glenn. I thought that would have been kind of messed if he did something like that. Like, I feel like beating him with the bat was real bad to prove everything, but just to show how sick he is, like just to have Abraham turn and have him kill Glenn.
Yeah, that would be, and he's the type of person that would do something like that. Have you, like he was going to do to Rick, cut his son's he said now I can talk about this because this is in the comics that happened at this time. I don't want to talk about anything in the comics after this time. Anything before it's fine, or at that time. In the comics, he actually tells Rick that, you will run the train on your son. And he says, I'm sure I got some men that are into that. Like, that's fucked up. Like, so he told Rick in this episode, he told Rick that, I'm going to cut it. You cut his arm off. He's like, because he thought Negan was going to do it. He's like, you don't have to do that. He says, I'm not doing it. He says, you're going to do it. And or he said they're going to basically bash Carl's head in. So, it's just a very hard position he was in right there. But, I do agree with your thought. I think that would have been even more worse, having a group member bash somebody's head in. But I think that would have been really effective too, maybe having Rick do it to one of his, I think that would have been the way to go, but he's the type of sicko that would do stuff like that, and I think that would have got the message, but definitely would have broke him down even more. Because you got to think, Rick's going to have to heal from this. One thing we're not going to see, because we're not going to see the same Rick for a good while. We're going to see a different Rick. especially from the previews that they showed of him telling the group, hey, I'm not in charge no more. It's Negan. He broke Rick the fuck down.
He's basically like how when his wife was killed, like when his wife died, that's basically how he is now, but worse.
I mean, you gotta think these are some tough characters. Michonne, Daryl, Rick. These guys aren't used to this being put on their knees. Like if you watch last season's finale when he says, "All right, get on your knees, get ready to meet the man," like they're like, "What? Get on her knees?" It's just how he did it. It was a really good episode. I mean, I think it was one of the most emotional episodes you'll ever see, and last season's finale. Very brutal. If you have a weak stomach, it's not for you. What's your overall thoughts, Daniel, of the season 7 premiere?
I enjoyed it way more than season 6 premiere. I don't know why I just didn't get into it as much as people last year. I thought season 6 overall was either really good or great. Last year, I think it's too overrated in a way in the cove, or when all those millions of zombies were there and the truck fell on them and stuff like that. And I thought it was great. We got to see more Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. He's definitely terrifying. He was to have him play him. And he's the most experienced actor out of the whole Walking Dead cast for sure, joining. So far, he's great. And then teasing what could be. I am going to be kind of pissed, though, because they always do this every year. But if they are going to do, I know there's going to be single episodes with Carol and Morgan, but I think next week's just going to be Carol and Morgan, so we're going to have to wait another week.
Well, you had some people saying that it's not going to go like that because you do have in the previews of actually telling the group that he's not the leader no more. So I don't know if they're going to do that to us. They could. I expected that too, but until somebody said that in a video that you do, I forgot about that. You do see in the previews Rick telling the group, "Hey, I'm not in charge no more." But to be fair, that might have been a season preview, and that might be in future episodes. So I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I'm good. I got what I wanted. I wanted my answer. I got it. I'm not gonna, be upset about next episode. I want next episode to have the group of Rick and all them and see what they're going through. I mean, I'll be honest with you right now. It's gonna be cool to see a Tiger and all that, but I want to see more Rick's group and what they're going through. I more care about that. But if I get to see the Tiger, I'm satisfied. I can't bitch. They gave us a great episode. They lived up to the hype. The wait was well worth it. Had a lot of fun watching videos, guessing. Now I'm wondering what all them people are going to do now. I guess they're going to have their prediction videos for every week, but it's still not going to be the same. But it'll still be fun. I had something else I was just wanting to talk about. Damn it, and I can't remember. That was another thing I wanted to add about it. But pretty much, this episode was one of the best. Okay, that's what I was wanting to do. If you had to score this episode from a 1 to a 10, Dirty, what would it be?
This would be a 10.
All right. What about you, Frozen?
Probably a 10, and probably my second favorite episode of all time in the show.
Okay. Daniel?
A 9.
Okay. All right. Well, I know. I'm just curious. I have to ask. Everybody's entitled to their score, but which episode? If this was have you ever scored a 10 on any of the Walking Dead episodes? Daniel?
Okay. Have I ever?
Have you ever gave a Walking Dead any episode a perfect score?
I don't think so. Probably the only 10 out of my favorite all would probably be the pilot.
Okay, so well, let me ask this again too with people I gave with Dirty and Frozen too before we go a little bit further with Daniel. Was this your favorite episode of The Walking Dead period, Dirty?
Yeah, by far, yes.
Okay. Frozen.
I said it was my second because my favorite one was with the governor and when he brought the tank over and they were having that little war. That was
Yeah,
my
I'm kind of with you on that because that's like one of my favorite episodes, the war at the fucking prison. That was just awesome. But I can see that too. And now back to Daniel. Uh, what was your favorite episode? The premiere of The Walking Dead, or was this your favorite episode or no?
Yeah, it has to be on my top three, probably. Premiere wise, I thought it was, and episode wise, yeah, it is. It is one of probably top three episodes ever. You can't beat the pilot in a way. The pilot is so strong, and just the introduction of Rick and all that. I love the pilot as my favorite episode. But then again, a lot of people don't like season 2 because we're at the farm the whole time. I love season 2. A lot of people love season 3 with the governor in Woodbury, but I thought that was really so kind of opposite when people hate the farm and I love the farm. So
The farm I
dramatic
liked a
stuff.
lot more than I liked the prison. The prison was the biggest problem I've ever had with this show, and it was like it was so close to me. It was getting to me where I didn't want to watch it no more. That was how bad the prison was. But I fought through it. I mean, Walking Dead is like this. I will tell you this. The Walking Dead is a show. There's parts of The Walking Dead where you have to fight through to keep watching. There is parts like that. And, leading up to this season 7 premiere, I was so glad I fought through them parts because there was times in the show, the farm, the prison, the whole thing with that like police thing going on with Beth, that was very boring. There's been some very boring things, and that's why they said this season 7 premiere, was pretty much a reboot. You're watching a new show now, and I don't think some people still don't understand that yet. That this show, they said this, the creator said this show will not be the same show as what we're used to. It's going to be it's going to be different. There's even, if you have read the comics, there's bigger threats coming. It's going to be really good, But I say Negan's probably the most evil, biggest character in this show. I would say, and on any series. I mean, just in general, what do you guys think of Negan in general? Do you like him as a character? Frozen.
Yeah, I think he's definitely very, especially with his army.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to even if Rick did team up with Hilltop, and we don't know about the Kingdom, but I don't think the Kingdom. I'm not sure. I don't think the Kingdom has as many people as Negan does. The amount of people he has, because they say that he has several. Because as you see, at the radio station, he had how many people were at that radio station? Probably 50 guys over there, and then he probably has more camps everywhere, all around. And then he's getting more camps. He's taking over more places.
And he has tons of machinery and vehicles and guns and I think he has a whole new way of doing. He has other ways of getting to people and tactics and stuff. He's not your normal enemy.
Yeah, he's nothing compared to the governor.
He's the governor's basically I don't know. He's I wouldn't even go as a vice president to a president. He's like a governor. He's the governor. He's not on that level of Negan's a president. Fucking warrior. But what do you think, Dirty, of Negan? Do you think he's good for the? I think he's good for the show. I think he's one of the better characters of the show. Makes the governor look like peanuts.
Yeah, I like him. To me, dude is a monster, and this is exactly what this show needs right now, going into the seventh season.
And I hate to say it, one thing with this show, it's going to really hurt the other Walking Dead, the Fear of the Walking Dead, because this show now raising the bar as high as it did, the other Walking Dead, I think, is going to fall short if they don't get something to on this level. I mean, I hope they don't do something exactly the same, try to mimic that, but they have to be creative how they do it. But they're going to have to get some kind of enemy at some kind of level or have something like that, because Because that's the problem with the other Walking Dead. People just don't see it as the same. It's like they see it too far off from this one, you know. So this one definitely raised the bar, you know. Would you guys agree, or do you guys think the other Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, is going to be affected by this?
I don't really think so, because a lot of people were complaining about waiting so long, so they gave you a show to watch in the meantime, and like, you know what I mean? Like, and eventually, I don't think that both of these shows are going to be running. I think these characters, even though they said the characters will never meet up, I can eventually see something happening where because you know how they do like the season jumps where some time passes by. You know, you never know. You may see some of those characters come
I
into
think
the other show.
eventually they're going to move those characters. If they were to end that show, they would move those characters over to this show.
Some of them will be moved over, most definitely.
Did you guys notice? I don't know if you guys noticed this also. I want to touch on this before we end the podcast. Did you guys notice they're doing like you remember how the plane thing they did with Fear the Walking Dead? Did you notice a little skit with a guy in a suit, you know, walking through things? Like it looked like he had like a quarantine suit on. Did you see that? It said "to be continued."
Where was this at?
It was in the commercial. Oh, you fast forward to the commercial. You didn't see that.
Oh, you know what? I think that was a. Wasn't that a movie?
Nope. It was a part. It was a part. It was something to do with The Walking Dead.
Oh, really? I thought it was part
Like,
of a movie.
it was like a mini episode.
Oh, I
It
guess
was
I
kind of
watched.
like, remember how what was the name of the one that they did on the Fear of the Walking Dead flight something? It's like that. And then that woman ended up being the survivor, the plane that went down, and they found her on the boat, or they found her like she got on the boat. I forgot what they found. Oh, Nick found her somewhere and then brought her back to the Abigail, and then they ended up putting her on that little boat and cutting the rope. She was a survivor of that plane.
Yeah,
And
she
actually,
was.
yeah. If I had to score it, I'm gonna go with a 10. You know, The Walking Dead, this episode, by far, it was probably the best episode. Second for me, best episode was the season 6 finale. I loved it. I thought it was some of the best acting, just like this episode, I've ever seen on TV. And then third for me, I have a top 3 favorites of Walking Dead, was the one that Frozen said, the prison. I thought that was just awesome. You know, and we're going to see a bigger war with that in the future if, you know, how the comics go. Like, there's going to be bigger wars than that. But for the TV show, that was the shit. I loved it when they brought the tank in. I thought it was great. But, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great episode. I can't wait to see the rest of the season. Thank you, guys, my co-host, Daniel Rodriguez, for joining. I appreciate it.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Frozen Magma.
Thanks for having me.
The Old Dirty 33.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for everybody that views this podcast and has watched it. Reese in the live chat, CubeMaster 2007, DRO Sports Network, Video Game Lover 58, and Russell Hunters. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And, you know, look forward to next time, whatever the podcast may be. Later, guys.